Good afternoon, everybody on YouTube. This is Rick Thomas from Obsolete Video Services. Hey guys, I thought I would do a little video. I've been getting a lot of messages and various different things about me repairing and refixing all these broadcast decks. So let me just do a quick little video, give you a little insight of what we do here. A lot of people ask me, you do all the repairs on all these broadcast decks, like the stuff I got here, 3/4-U-matic. Doesn't really matter what it is. The machines are all mechanically almost exactly the same. There's not much of a difference. But I've been doing this for 35 years, so it's not something you could learn overnight. I mean, there's a lot of tricks of the trade you need to know. You've got to have a lot of experience of working on many of the same formats, so you know exactly how to reapply it on a model that comes down the road that's the same model that you need to fix. Lots and lots of experience. But you can get a crash course on learning how to do this stuff, just the basics that would get you on your way. I do get an awful lot of people asking me, why don't you teach a class? I get this constantly. People from the UK, California, Chicago, Philadelphia. I mean, it's like everywhere. Yes, folks, this is old school broadcast television. There's nobody doing it anymore. I'm probably one of the only electronic techs probably in the entire country that does it to this level. If I could teach a class, yeah, I would really love to teach a class if I could. But basically, I'm trying to figure out a way where I can. My YouTube page is basically a learning experience for people wanting to learn as much as they can. I try to walk you through everything on every deck that I do. I know it can be repetitious at times, but my YouTube page is a learning experience as well as video recovery and things that you guys want to see. It's basically a learning tool for people wanting to learn what it's like to work on television broadcast equipment. All right, today we just got done repairing it's a Thompson, which is no different than a Sony model, but it's a Thompson TTV 3452N. This is a digital Betacam SP player, multi-use type of video deck. So I'm going to walk you through this. Maybe this might guide you a little bit where you need to know about working on broadcast decks. This applies to almost every video deck you're ever going to work on. It's the same story, same bottle of beer. It very seldom deviates from it at all. It's almost exactly the same. All right. When you work on a video deck and you're going to bring it back to life, first of all, you got to get your covers off and get your loading carriage out. 9 times out of 10, due to damage and people forcing videotapes in these decks, they fuck up the loading carriages. All right. In that case, you're going to be kind of screwed because the first thing you're going to have to do is have another machine for parts to be able to swap out a good loading carriage. Here at Obsolete Video Services, I've gotten so many broadcast decks over the years. I collect a lot of carriages and I keep them on hand for this very, very reason right here. So here's a brand new loading carriage. I did have to replace loading carriage on this machine. Was destroyed. It would not take it. The gears were cracked. It was complete junk. So we're replacing it with a brand new, very low mileage replacement carriage. This one works fantastic. All right. Second of all, I thought I'd lay this out on the table and give you guys a little guidance of what it's like to work on the more modern Betacam SPs. Here is a complete mechanism out of an HD cam. As you can see, everything's in front of you, and then it plugs into a main systems board on the very bottom. Everything unplugs very easily. They're made pretty simple to remove the entire mechanism. In most cases, if you get a mechanism that's really, really bad, the best thing to do is pull it out of the bodice of the unit, take the whole thing out. That way you can work on the table with it in the open like this, which is what I actually did with that one. I pulled it out on the table. I'm able to get to all the parts and lubrication and replacement stuff without the rest of the frame box being in a way where I can't get to something. So it made it real easy. So basically what you do is you remove it from the bodice of the unit. On most of these units, it's all the same. Everything plugs in. You have 4 screws on the aluminum base. This whole unit pulls out, and then you unplug from the system's card plugs on the bottom that adjacent to all the cards to the actual unit. It's real easy to do. It takes 20 minutes once you know what screws to take out and how to take it out. But once you get it out and you take it out on the table like this, it's very easy to repair. I mean, everything is right there. Your loading motor board, your everything. It's all right in front of you. Everything you need to get to is right in front of you. So when you got it out like this, you could take all these shafts for driving your motors. All these have to be cleaned, get the grease. They got to be greased. All this could be taken apart real easily and put back together again in a matter of minutes. Loading ring could be reset without anything being in the way. You could clean your motors, your belts. Everything is mechanized. If you don't have lubrication, nothing moves, people. You got to take everything apart, re-lube it, brand new belts, put it all back together again. Once you're done with that, you want to take your motor and spin it manually like this to make sure your loading ring is free and it loads properly and there's no jams. Once you get it to the point where it's loading and goes back into loading position like that and everything's freed up. So like, for instance, when you look at this, for instance, this is going to be your small shell and large shell motor drive. It goes up and down depending on the type of tape you put in here. You want to get that all freed up, because if any of these are locked in place, you're going to get error codes up the wazoo. And 9 times out of 10, due to the fact these machines are in machine rooms and they sit, the grease gets hard as a rock and they don't move. Then you start getting a whole shitload of error codes on the front of this damn thing. So you're better off, once you get a machine like this, since I'm a technician, this is what I do all the time. Any of the machines that I get in my arsenal for my production, they all get overhauled like this before I even use them. I refuse to use machines right off the bat, right when I get it from somewhere, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to start having problems with it. I don't go that route. I'll completely rebuild it like this, fix the problems that have to be fixed, reinstall the mechanism back into the Betacam SP, and then work from there. In this case, on this mechanism, I had to re-grease everything. Loading ring was jammed. The loading motor back there had to be reset and cleaned. It was completely locked in place. All the grease was bad on this thing. I had to fix the spindles. I had to replace the loading carriage, and I had to replace 3 cards on this deck. Usually when you have mechanism failures, will sometimes back up and blow out your cards. It does happen. Especially when you have mechanism problems and it's not doing what it should do. It puts too much current as a feedback, and sometimes it blows your cards out, especially like your servo card and your system card. So having good, proper lubrication, good belts, and keeping these things loose all the time. Turn them on once in a while. Pop a tape in. Let it load and unload. Small tape, large tape. Get everything moving, especially if you're not using it that much. That's what keeps these machines pliable, so you don't get tape jams and start getting system failures. If you're getting error codes on your machine, it's because the mechanism and machine needs to be completely overhauled. That's what we do here at Obsolete Video Services. This is exactly what we do here. I get a machine, it gets overhauled before I even use it. So anyways, this is a mechanism, is exact similar mechanism as this. All mechanisms pop out. They unplug from the bottom first, from the main chassis of the main boards. You got a screw back here and 2 screws up here in front. You unscrew those. You unplug these cables that go to several of the cards that bridge over the unit, that bridge over to some of the cards back here. They all unplug. They're color-coded. You cannot make a mistake by plugging them back in when you put the unit back in. This plugs in the very bottom of the bodice. You can't make a mistake where that goes. And here you go. This is for your loading carriage. It's simple. It's relatively not that hard to do. But the biggest problem is you got to know how to set mechanical stuff. Mechanical stuff is difficult. The lubrication, you got to make sure you get it set to where the loading rings are going to lock where they belong, loading and unloading. If they don't, you got to start all over again. You got to make sure your swing arms all go back to the proper location. If they don't, you may have to replace the swing arm. In some cases, you want to make sure that your drive motor's engaged for the right size tape. All this has to be freed up, and it's all got to be aligned. It's got to be correct. So when the machine engages those mechanisms for whatever reason, if they don't go where they're supposed to go, you're going to get a shitload of error codes. There's a lot that goes into fixing broadcast equipment, guys. I've been doing this for 35 years. I wish I could have a classroom and do this step by step. You guys can learn so much if you're totally into doing this stuff. I could teach you guys things you wouldn't even believe. This is just, like I said, it's old school broadcast television, and that's what I'm all about. But this is basically how you start to repair a deck. especially the Beta KMSPs. You take out the entire mechanism. It takes 10 minutes to do this. You rebuild, re-grease, fix, change out rubber tires, belts, whatever. Get this completely rebuilt proper and loose and ready to go again. You reinstall it back into your main bodice of the machine, plug everything back in, screw it back down, and assess your loading carriage. You got to look at it very carefully. All right, if it's not moving, there's a little wheel on the front of these. You spin this wheel to make it go down. You spin this wheel to make it come back out, to shoot the tape back out. If this doesn't move freely and it's jamming, it's most likely because you got a bad jam, a loading carriage that's bad or going bad. So you need to replace it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there's anything you need to know about broadcast television, I really wish I could teach everybody. I get people like, man, you know, you're living a dream in two different worlds. Yes, it is. I mean, this machine, all this equipment's worth money to me because I can fix it. But to the average person, this stuff is all door stops. They don't know what the hell. It's not worth anything. I mean, literally the machines are worth nothing to the average person. But to somebody who's a technician, 35 years in broadcast television, this stuff is of value of the day when it was first bought. It's something I could actually use. Or if I have stuff I'm done with, I sell to the people that might need it. But people, if you're ever looking for television broadcast decks, you know, donations like this is great for somebody like me. But for somebody who's not a technical person in electronic repair, you got to be very skilled at it. I wouldn't even attempt to do any of this stuff. It's very, very complicated to the average person. But I just wanted to address the person out there who said, why don't you teach a class? Believe me, I would love to teach this to people who really want to learn it. It's very, very complicated. There's a lot to it from deck to deck. Every model has different types of maintenance that you have to do. There's a lot of learning behind all this. So maybe at some point we'll be able to do something. So I hope you enjoyed this video.